am Dr. Deering. This is intended to be a time where I can just be present with you, and you can just take some time out for yourself. If you're a mom, I know guys probably tune in too, but if you're a mom in particular and you're at home, either working your job from home or at home, working at home, or just being a mom, which is work in and of itself, we as moms very rarely get to take time out for ourselves. Last night, I actually it was a very interesting day yesterday evening. I've been working, end of the day, realized, oh my goodness, I did not cook the chicken that I had defrosted in the fridge. And my eyelashes deciding to act up today, but thank you for bearing with me. Anyway, I realized I hadn't cooked anything, and so I went to the staple, let's make some tuna fish. So whipped up some tuna fish, and that's what I ate. Some people in my family ate. But at one point, my youngest, Jasmine, I turned around and I saw her in the kitchen, and she just seemed to be tooling away, making something for herself to eat, which in our family is a rarity because Jasmine usually likes to eat stuff that other people have made. And it got me thinking about food and just what food does. She was obviously hungry, and that's what I thought. But as time went on, I realized she was really involved in what she was doing in the kitchen. And so I went over to kind of see what was going on, and it turns out she was actually following a recipe she had found to make something that she had seen online. She's very much into Korean culture, and she was making a Korean dish of some sort. So I just let her go to it. And as I went to the other room, I started thinking about food and how food really has this interesting effect. It's a chemical thing because there's chemistry in food and how it's made. And there is chemistry in terms of how it is digested in our body and then disseminated and then relieved of itself in terms of the waste product. So food is chemical. And then I also started thinking about how food is this creative endeavor where, you mix some things in and something ends up going from bland or non-existent to a whole new creation of something that then we smell, we see, and then we partake, and it tastes really good. And then I started thinking about how food is communal. That seems to be the obvious thing. People gather around food, no matter where you are, in whatever environment. If you partake of their food of some other culture or family or group, you end up learning a lot about the people from a particular area or environment or background. You end up learning a lot about them through the food that they prepare and eat, and what they do around their food together as a community. So it's communal. And as I was pondering this, I realized, again, for the umpth time in my life, I really don't like cooking. And I started thinking about why is it I don't like cooking? And I do it, it's functional. I do it functionally. I do it to feed my family and feed myself. And it dawned on me that a lot of the way in which we associate food and cooking has to do with what we grew up with. And all I remember was my mom being a single mom, working her butt off, trying to make ends meet. And every time I would see her cook, it was really a functional thing for her. Um, but she did it because she knew she had the three kids, me and my other two siblings, to feed. And so I thought, oh, okay. So it was functional. But the times that I would actually see her enjoying cooking uh, was when she would cook meals, as she would say, from the country. She's from Jamaica, and she just loved to whip things together when she could scrape up enough money to get all the ingredients, and she would make, oh my God, these wonderful Jamaican meals. And and I would just eat it. And as I reflected on that and recalled the joy I would see in her face, I happened to glance over in the kitchen, and there was my Jasmine, just tooling away at this thing she was making. I would hear all this commentary from her as she was making this stuff. Um, and so me not being one who's really good at cooking, I mean, obviously my family is still alive, so the food I've been feeding them has actually not killed them. So it got me thinking about how yeah, here I am, not a great cook, but there she was, still just partaking of the process anyway, even though that wasn't her forte. And she was just being so patient. So I just joined her in the kitchen and began to encourage her along. Um, I found myself finding opportunity to listen to what it was that she was commenting about. She was concerned that it wasn't going to turn out right or that it wouldn't taste good. And I was just encouraging her along, yeah, try this, that, and the other thing. And at one point, she put some olive oil in the pan and it seemed to start burning the dish she was making. She was getting discouraged and I was like, that's okay, let's change pans. And she just went on, and as she was going on cooking, we just found a new rhythm in the kitchen. She found a new rhythm, she found a new voice for herself to actually tell herself more positive things about her meal. And I tell you, when she finished that meal, she was so proud. She had it on the dish and she pointed to the YouTube or whatever, the all recipe thing and what it was supposed to look like. And then she showed everybody what it was supposed to look like. And she showed us what her plate looked like. And it was in the ballpark. And I tell you, we all partook of every single piece of that meal that she made. And I think she was surprised at how good it was. And once we partook of it and then digested it, then as she saw how much we enjoyed it, then she was actually open to some input that we had, like well, maybe just a little bit of salt and pepper might have added more flavor. But as those comments even came out of our mouths, we all realized, but it really tasted good just the way it was. So all that to say is that, the whole process of food and communing around food and the process of making the food can actually have give you opportunity to connect with each other in a different way. So really just look for opportunities to enjoy the time that we have around food items. I see a little cricket on my window. um, there are some cultures that eat crickets. I'm just not one of them. However, if you cook it and put enough ketchup on it for me, then I'll likely partake of it. So I'm just kind of wondering, what kind of food plans do you have coming up this weekend? I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any memories around uh, food and family from when you were growing up, I'd love to hear from you about that too. Because that really feeds us, not just physically, but spiritually and internally and emotionally and mentally, as we reflect on those things. That can be of help. When I actually, my claim to fame in my family is that I don't know about you, but I think I might be the only person who's actually ever burned water. That's me. I burned water. It was the year after I graduated from college, and I was living in a very small apartment. I was teaching at the time, living in a very small apartment on the campus of the school I was teaching in, and uh, had one of those little small pots, not hot plates. That's what they call it. I put my thing on the hot plate and got caught up with something else I was doing and wasn't watching the pot of water, and literally I didn't burn down the school, but I did burn water. And I remember thinking to myself, my mother would really find this very funny. So that's my claim to fame in my family. Uh, any any mishaps or faux pas you've had with cooking? Love to hear that too. Uh, even, and I think one of the things as I've ventured out and done more cooking, obviously over the time, I've ventured out and realized, cooking is actually a flexible thing too. We can have recipes, but even with a recipe that worked for one other person, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it exactly that way, but you can actually add, no pun intended, your own flavor to it and try something different. And you never know what you might discover. And I know that that's happened for me a lot of times. As I said, my mom was a single mom, and we were dirt poor, and uh, I would just see her at the times when she couldn't afford to get all the recipe ingredients for the Jamaican meals. There were times we just had these bare things, like a can of this, and I don't even know what was in the cupboard because I didn't spend any time there. But there would be very little in the cupboard. I'd go outside to play. I'd come back in less than an hour, and next thing you know, I see my mother doing all sorts of things, hovering over the pot. Next thing you know, there was just something that was edible, and it tasted good. And so I know that over the years, I've actually uh, ventured to be adventurous in my cooking. And so, uh, if there are any cool recipes, I know I've seen on Facebook and some other social media people posting different recipes. Would love to hear of any quick, cool recipes that you're finding that are your go-to recipes during this time. Definitely share that too in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Again, I'm going to be on to have this be a time where you actually have a time of respite, time for yourself, to just replenish and feed your spirit. This is Dr. Michelle Deering. So nice to be with you today. Definitely leave your comments in the comment section. I will respond, or feel free to DM me. I'm here and I want to be of help and love to be of help. All right, take care. Bye.